thank you everyone. I'm so glad that you joined us today, and I hope that you find today's information useful. So the title of today's webinar panel is Frequently Asked Questions of Social Media, a Concrete Toolkit to Solve Business Problems. And I am so very grateful to our panelists, Professor Ilana Shanks, who is my colleague in the College of Business and who teaches our social media marketing classes at both the undergrad and graduate levels. Sree, Srenivasan, who is now affiliated with the School of Journalism, but also is an industry expert and former chief digital officer for a number of entities in the city. We have Timothy Peterson, who is the Chief Marketing and Chief Digital Officer for SportsBiz Group, and Sal Conca, who is the founder of Sal Conca Marketing and the CEO for Big Lou's Onion Sauce. So I just wanted to take a moment to introduce ourselves and why we're here. So thanks to Garrett Wolf, who I think is in this chat. So hi, Garrett, glad to see you. The College of Business faculty have been working on a series of initiatives dedicated to helping local business owners during this tough time with the pandemic. And we offer a number of different programs in conjunction with Suffolk County and the Suffolk County Forward Initiative. And you know, really the three things that I've been involved with or part of has been virtual expert office hours that a number of our faculty host. We have a pandemic shift workshop, which helps business owners consider ways that they can pivot and thrive during this tough time. And we also have a small business tech enhancement program. And by virtue of being involved in these programs, I've gotten to know some of you today in this group. And I've heard the struggles that you're having, and you know, through a series of conversations with about 15 different business owners, I learned that the questions that you have are similar in spirit. So a lot of you have been asking about a number of topics that we will present today. And so given that, you know, time is precious, I wanted to gather or give everyone a chance to gather in a forum where we could answer some of these questions and also tap into the wonderful faculty that we have both on campus and industry experts that we have relationships with, you know, in Long Island. So I'm here and I put this together to help you. And now I want to give each of the panelists a little bit of time just to say who they are and why they're interested in joining us today. So Sal, you perhaps have a very interesting relationship to the manufacturing and food industry on Long Island. Maybe we can start with you.
Hi, my name is Sal Conca. Stacey, thanks so much for having me here today. I have been in digital marketing for the past 20 years. I can't believe I'm that old, actually. And I have been doing everything from affiliate marketing to social media, content marketing, video production, etc. Most recently, in the last 5 to 7 years, I've been an independent consultant working with small businesses, e-commerce startups, and a number of other B2B related industries in manufacturing. I'm a passionate foodie and a musician, and through that, I created a business of my own called Big Lou's Onion Sauce with my father, which is an homage to my grandfather. And on top of that, I also have a video production company. So I've basically taken my marketing and my video production, and now I offer a lot to small and local businesses in the way of social media videos, especially with things that are going on now. I have a lot of experience in terms of managing campaigns for clients, as well as doing my own marketing and creative, from building websites from the ground up, like an e-commerce startup like Big Lou's Onion Sauce, running Facebook ads, working with influencers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty much the short story on me.
Thanks, Sal. Lana, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my name is Ilana Shanks. I'm a professor in the College of Business here at Stony Brook. I do research on technology and how the presence of technology in the marketplace impacts the way that consumers behave. And at Stony Brook, I teach the social media marketing class. So I'm here to provide my input in terms of what we cover in our class, some insights that we've learned from the research side in terms of how consumers respond to social media marketing.
Tim, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Timothy Peterson, Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Digital Officer for a tech platform called SportsBiz. It works with sports sponsorship analytics. Like Sal, I've been in digital marketing for about 20 years, and I can hardly believe that. I have worked for a lot of businesses on Long Island, including a business with Sal quite some time ago, 15 years ago. And I've worked in health and wellness, fashion and beauty, consumer packaged goods, tech. I worked for a tech manufacturer on Long Island quite some time ago as well, helping them with e-commerce. So pretty wide range of experience and a lot of local business experience as well.
Great. And last but not least, Sree, perhaps you can introduce yourself.
Hi, folks. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a new Long Islander, even though I'm on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Before this pandemic, I was commuting 2 days a week, 3 trains, 12 hours altogether a week of commuting. So I am always looking for opportunities to engage virtually with Long Island. I'm the former Chief Digital Officer of 3 institutions that have been upended by the pandemic: Columbia University, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the City of New York. I was the Chief Digital Officer there last 3 years now. I run my own consulting, and now it's really a virtual events business, helping people take their conferences and other things online. And I'm just happy to help in any way I can. I know what it's like to have a business that needs to adjust to the new world. While that's getting set up, why don't we, the speakers, just discuss some ideas and things. Sal, do you want to get us started on some of you? How are you adjusting with your clients? What are some of the things you're doing now on social? I know you have your slides and stuff also, but do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of adjusting, what I've seen, I started a podcast for local restaurants here, and today's a big day for restaurants. They're beginning to open up dining outside. I started a podcast and video series called The Big Food Talk, where I'm interviewing restaurant owners and chefs and food pioneers, food manufacturers on Long Island through the Long Island Food Council, Yelp Long Island, and Dine LI, which is a Facebook group with 17,000 members. So in that, I've been discovering and really talking to them about ways they've adjusted. So telling their story about their passions for food, as well as how they're surviving through this time. And the stories have ranged from everything from, how they've been doing collaborations, how they had to adjust their takeout menus, how they're preparing for sanitization and social distancing going forward. So the show, The Big Food Talk, has been a real great vehicle for me for building relationships. So as a consultant, right, if you have a consulting business, why podcast, right? I podcast to make relationships. I now have relationships with 40 restaurants on Long Island that I never had before, and I'm offering them a free service. I'm offering them the opportunity to speak about their business. They're the ones that are thriving. I can tell you the businesses that are thriving are the ones that have embraced social media, the ones that are not afraid to collaborate with other restaurants rather than look at them as competitive. If you've seen the happy hours going on in towns like Patchogue, Farmingdale, Huntington, the towns that have come together to really do things, a lot of that influenced by their Chamber of Commerces, which I highly recommend is getting involved with your local chambers to make sure you're taking advantage of all of the business opportunities that are available to you in networking. Join your local networking groups in order to figure out, who are the people in your town, in your county that are influential, and participating in things like this. So for myself, I'm like you, Sree, I think like you talked about the local events, I do have a video production company, and, we're focusing a lot on reopening videos, streaming live events, all those sorts of things. And you need technology to make that happen, and being able to create social video packages for local businesses. That's another thing that we're working on as well. So
I just wanted to say thank you. That sounds awesome. Breaking news from the Wall Street Journal. As you know, Grubhub was trying to get into a deal with Uber Eats. They've now walked away, and they're going to partner with JustEatTakeaway.com instead. So there's so much activity happening in this space. And so I think restaurants are one of those places that have been the most badly hit, but also have a chance to bounce back in new ways. But the apps are charging too much money, right? That's one of the things we've learned.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting thing. Others, do you want to share, Ilana, do you want to share how you're thinking about this new world?
So I think it's interesting the amount of information that's now available to consumers that we've gotten due to the pandemic, so such as the fees that the different platforms are charging restaurants. I think it's important to also just focus on strategies as we are rebuilding our economy post-pandemic, and thinking about how social media can help firms do that, and making sure that the content that is being posted on social media platforms is aligned with the goals of the company. The strategies are aligned with the goals.
Are you finding that people are often reluctant to think about that, or are seeing this as an opportunity to do something new and different?
I think that it's something that once you say it, it seems like it's common sense, but it may not be something that everyone thinks about ahead of time. You know, you just want to post content that is engaging, or maybe follows a style that you've seen other businesses post, but thinking about what is your actual goal that you want to achieve from social media, and making sure that your strategy aligns with that. I think that once you mention it, it seems like common sense, but it may not always be something that people think about initially.
We'll keep an eye on the chat box. When you all registered, actually, I noticed that all of the participants today, and I'm looking forward to seeing who joined us today, spanned a number of different industries, including education, consulting, manufacturing, healthcare, and other professional services like legal and accounting. So, you know, looking at the questions and the number of different industries that were represented, I think what we'll talk about today really spans a number of different industries. So one of the key questions that had come up for a lot of people was, you know, how to create and manage campaigns on social media. And the way that I interpreted this, and please feel free to tell me if I interpreted your questions incorrectly when you registered, we're not so much like the nitty-gritty of how do I actually put a campaign on Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms, but more of, you know, I've seen resources as to how to put up these campaigns, but they might not be working the way that I intend. So maybe I post a campaign on Facebook and I put some content there. Maybe I put, you know, a little bit of money behind the campaign, and I'm not getting the results that I want from that campaign. And so the first mini module of things that we'll talk about today pertains to reasons as to why campaigns might not be working the way that you intend them to work, and sort of demystifying that process for some of you. A number of you also had questions related to content creation, production, automation, and distribution. And so, you know, Sal will spend some time on that. And then we also had, you know, questions related to sort of individual needs that some of you might have as pertains to your own businesses. So please feel free to use the chat box. We'll cover a few of these different mini modules, and then I'll open it up and look at questions in between. And that way we can sort of, after a mini module, address some of the things that you all are thinking of. But then I also, at the end, want to open it up for some broader Q&A. Maybe there's something that you thought about as it relates to all of the topics that we'll discuss today. And so we'll make sure that we get to everything that you are thinking of. So to start off with, I just wanted to begin with this idea of why campaigns might not be working for you the way that you want them to. And really, this is open to all of the panelists. And so Ilana and I have put together some of the these materials related to what's come out from academic research. You know, some of the things that come out, so my expertise lies in teaching, I teach both consumer insights and marketing strategy. And so I put together this sort of general slide as to why campaigns might be ineffective. And although this relates to social media for today's talk, really this is about any advertising campaign that you could run, traditional, you know, print, radio, and also social media. So some of the things that, you know, come up are issues related to marketing strategy, whether or not your campaign is actually reaching the customers that you intend to reach, or maybe you are reaching customers who aren't your target segment, which would explain why the campaign might not be working for you if you're not reaching the customers that you would like to be reaching. Sometimes what I've seen is there are issues with unclear messaging and flashy tactics that might be used
in a way that aren't consistent with strategy. So maybe you put out some messages that really are attention grabbing and that captures people's attention, but it doesn't fit with the overall mission and vision that you have for your company. And sometimes campaigns simply try to do too much at once. Related to design, sometimes campaigns aren't attention grabbing, or maybe the design is unappealing to the target segment. Because, you know, as faculty, Ilana and I are data wonks. So what we think about our lot is, you know, is the campaign data driven, and are we looking at our data to drive decision making versus making decisions about campaigns based on our intuitions for what people might like, or anecdotes for what we think people might like. You know, sometimes what we think or what other people might tell us sort of one-on-one doesn't represent the customer base as a whole. Maybe people feel like, you know, they want to please you or flatter you, and they don't want to give you an honest assessment, you know, of your campaign. So, you know, in terms of boosting a campaign's efficacy, it's really important to understand your data and how consumers process information, and to consider whether or not you are open to experimentation, crafting a few different versions of the message and seeing how it resonates with consumers, and if you're using the right platform. And this is hugely important. We're going to come back to it a number of times, but a number of the different social media platforms that you can use are primarily designed to build awareness. And that's great if your goal is to build awareness, which Ilana will touch on, but if your goal is to drive email signups or, you know, see a path to purchase, those platforms might not be the most useful for you. And so thinking through whether or not your message is on the right platform is hugely important. And finally, I think taking time to cultivate community, thinking about how you're engaging and are you engaging, is a theme that we'll return to. So for our panelists, I just spoke a lot, and that's probably the most that I'll speak today. But do you have any thoughts before we talk a little bit more about, you know, some of these issues based on Ilana's thoughts?
So what I would say to that, Stacey, is really it's about creating a focus and a community. I mean, so there are many things that we're going to touch on here. But to me, a lot of it boils down to focus. You know, what are you really about, and what is that community you're building about? What are they all interested in, and what do they care about that you also care about? So that's a theme that, you know, I keep coming back to in the social media that I work in.
Absolutely. Tim, I could add to that as well. I mean, I think focus is key, and getting your messaging right, and, you know, not selling to people. You know, social media isn't about creating commercials or ads, and, you know, that's the days of commercials are dead. You know, people want to hear your story. They want to see the behind the scenes. They want to know what's going on at your restaurant business, who the founder is, why they started the company. And, you know, we'll talk more about that when we get to my slides, but, you know, creating effective social media really comes down to authenticity.
Yeah, and Sal, as Sal, you put it later, it's what's your why, right?
Yeah, we'll get into that. Absolutely,
there. We will, I promise. All right, so thanks. I love having discussion around this. Ilana, maybe you can touch a little bit more on what we mean when we talk about matching a business's goals with their strategy. You put together this wonderful slide, so I want you to tell us about it.
I love the previous points because I feel like these are topics or points that I mentioned repeatedly in my class, that social media marketing isn't about just selling. We have this opportunity on social media to now engage in a conversation with our customers. And so it's about building relationships and not just trying to sell to consumers constantly on platforms. So I am coming from a more academic perspective, and so thinking about the strategies that we're using on on our platforms. And one thing that's important is to make sure that when we are choosing a strategy, our strategies that we're choosing are really driven by our goals. So what do we want to accomplish by implementing a social media campaign? And one thing that we can use in order to help us determine what strategies we should implement is we can look at our key performance indicators, or our different metrics that are going to help us understand understand how we're performing on our platforms in terms of achieving our goals. So I put together a slide that has some of the goals that we may have at the top. So for example, increase brand awareness, generating sales leads, our community engagement, and some of our key performance indicators. So how would we measure if we are performing to our goals? And I'll focus on two, increase brand awareness and community engagement, to highlight what I mean by your goals should be the impetus behind your strategy. So if our goal is to increase our brand awareness, or the number of consumers who know about our brand or can recognize our brand, some ways of measuring this are the number of consumers who have been exposed to our marketing message and so therefore recognize our brands later. And so this can be number of followers that we have. So these are individuals who are then exposed to our marketing message on social media platforms, impressions, the number of times our content has been viewed on the platforms, number of shares, traffic to websites, to reach. And so if our goal is to increase our brand awareness, this is going to drive our strategy. And so we really want to have a strategy where we are creating content that's really going to grab our audience's attention. So when they are going through social media platforms, we want to have content that really stands out and that results in consumers recognizing our content and our brands later. So some strategies that we may have is to post content that's visually engaging, that really stands out, that's reflective of our brand, our company's personality, and that has consistent branding. So that way when consumers are engaging with our brands later, it increases recognition. And so if that's our strategy, if our goal is to increase brand awareness, then that's going to drive our strategy when we're creating content for social media. Whereas if our goal is to increase engagement, so if we want to increase the number of likes, comments, or sharing, we may engage in a little bit of a different strategy. So now we may want to post content where we're asking questions. If we post content where we're asking questions, this can spur conversations, comments on our content to really increase authentic, organic engagement with our audience. Or post content that we know that will spur a conversation. Or if we want to increase sharing, it's been shown that sharing, consumers engage in sharing behavior when there is some kind of value to content and they want to share it with other people, or it elicits emotion in them. So create content that we think is going to be valuable to our target audience that will result in them sharing content. So it's important to keep in mind our goals when we are thinking about the strategy when we're creating our content. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, I'll just say that really one thing that spurred us coming together for this module, Ilana, are questions that I got related to, I'm posting campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. My goal is to generate sales, although people aren't putting it that way. Necessarily up front, but that's not happening, right? So, you know, I have had these really, you know, sort of heart-to-heart conversations with business owners to say, you know, well, what's your goal for using social media? Are you trying to build awareness? And they say, no, I want to generate sales. And I have to say, well, right? These two things, you know, the platform that you're using and the message that you're putting out isn't serving the goal that you've set for yourself. And I don't know if any of our panelists have any thoughts or advice around, you know, this topic, because I think that's really something a lot of business owners are struggling with, is they're putting content up, they're building awareness, which is a very useful goal, but if their ultimate goal is to generate leads and sales, you know, there might be a disconnect there.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that through my experience with Big Blue's Onion Sauce, right? I'm a startup here on Long Island. We've been in business for 2 years. We've built social community over the last 2 years. And, you know, so in terms of examples, right, I use Instagram very much so to build awareness and relationships, right? So at that point, I'm building social cloud. I talk to people, and by engagement and relationships, I mean actually commenting on other people's posts, getting involved and following hashtags that matter to my business, like hashtag grilling season in New York, or hashtag organic foods. And so I'm inserting myself in the conversations that other people are having. So they're like, oh, who is Big Blue's Onion Sauce? They're responding, you're engaging. And so, but I'm also now providing value because I put up recipes, right? So I add recipes for my business so people can see how to use my product. And none of this has to do with sales. At the sales side, it's Facebook ads. And I can tell you, you know, during this time, the only people that are probably getting away with posting about their businesses are restaurants right now, because everybody, they want to see, I'm opening for takeout today. Here's my takeout menu today. That's the only business right now that I've seen truly that can get away with posting organic content, and it's leading to quote unquote sales, because people are undoubtedly looking for takeout and eating out now. But as a regular business, as a food manufacturer, somebody else, you know, Facebook ads is where the sales are coming from, and you have to set your campaign up for that. You need to tell the right story. But the rest of the channels are built for awareness, engagement, and other things. So yeah, I mean, you have to be very poignant about which strategies you're using in which place.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
Stacey,
Sal.
if I might add one quick thing to something that Sal has said, and Ilana is referring to as well. You know, where I've seen some success or organically, again, you know, not necessarily with the ads, is of course restaurants. You're absolutely right, but also places that were high touch and that were affected very, you know, very severely by the COVID crisis. So hair salons and barbershops,
Yes.
Dry cleaners, let's say, massage, gyms, those places that provided valuable content, you know, that said, here's how to clean your clothes at home in a way, you know, why you can't go to the dry cleaner, or here's how to cut your hair until you can come back to the barbershop. Those places built up huge followings and really have a lot of dedicated people who were waiting to hear what was next, what was going to happen in a phase 1 or phase 2 reopening, and their customers are going to be there, right? And they've gained new customers. So they did not have to pay. You know, others did, unfortunately, you know, really to get those direct sales.
Great point, Tim.
Great, thanks. Lana, you had also put together this slide on understanding different algorithms for organic reach, which I think really dovetails nicely with the conversation that you know all of us are having now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
So also built off of academic research. So research has examined, does liking a firm on Facebook, does that create value? And research has shown that simply liking a company on Facebook does not increase value. What we've discussed now, it's really the liking, but being exposed to branded content and really interacting with the company on social media platforms is what results in an increase in value. And so this suggests that we have to engage in both push and pull marketing. So pull marketing, where we are creating content that results in consumers wanting to engage with us, which is important for social media because we want our individuals to follow us on different platforms. But it's also important to engage in push marketing, which we've discussed. So where we are actively exposing our marketing content to our followers, so through paid advertisement. But we can also do this through organic reach. So we can try to understand algorithms and how our algorithms perform in order to increase prioritization of our content on different platforms. And so I just put some examples of the different algorithms that the platforms use in order to understand how they prioritize content and how understanding these algorithms can help to increase organic reach. So for Facebook, they base their algorithm on inventory. So all of the content that's available from your friends and other companies that you follow. Signals, so signals that the content is going to be meaningful to you. So what type of content is it, the age, how new it is, the purpose. They use predictions, so have other people engage with the content, and they use this in order to create a score. Our Instagram also uses interests, what other people have liked in the past, your relationship with the company, and the timeliness, how recent the post is. And also Twitter uses their algorithm based on how recent, relevant engagement, and also the richness of the media. So if there are images or videos. And so I just think that there is a very consistent theme on creating content that is engaging. So there is now this increased focus in the algorithms of pushing out content to followers that is going to result in authentic engagement. And so I think that some of the conversation that we had previously, like this really aligns great with this, is to make sure that you are posting content that's going to result result in authentic engagement. So you don't want to post clickbait. Actually, some platforms will penalize you if you create content that just asks for individuals to click on your content. You want to create content that is going to provide some kind of value. And I think it's important to understand the environment that we're in. So for example, Tim had a great example of the dry cleaners, and they are providing advice to their customers on what they can do now that they are not able to go to dry cleaners. So now you're creating value and creating engagement. You're creating content that can result in conversations on your posts. This is going to result in higher prioritization on algorithms. And also making sure that you are publishing when your target audience is online. Recency is a major part of all of the algorithms. And so if you have content that's old when your target market is online, then that is going to push your organic content down in the algorithms. So understanding how your target market acts on social media, understanding the best times to post on the different platforms and posting during those times to make sure that when you're posting content, it is recent and it will receive higher prioritization in the algorithms.
Great, thanks. So, for parting words for this mini module, I created, sort of a takeaway slide for us, things that you can do in the next, coming weeks, maybe months. Kristen, if you can go to the next slide, please. So within the next few weeks or months, when we're thinking about, concrete actions that you could take, the first thing that I had thought of was to really think about doing a social media audit related to all of the topics that we just discussed. Is your messaging strategy in service of the goals that you have for your business? Is your goal to drive awareness? Is your goal to translate, see a path to purchase, or some other goal, like some of the ones that we had listed out on the side, on the earlier slide? Do a social media audit. Make sure that you're reaching the customers that you want to be reaching. Make sure that your campaigns are in the service of your goals. Also, another thing that you can do immediately is a website audit. What do customers see on your homepage? Is it attention grabbing? Is there an easy path to service? If you're a restaurant and you don't have information on your landing page as to whether or not you're currently open for delivery or takeout, you're doing yourself a disservice because customers don't know what they can expect for you. So make sure that your website right now is serving the way that your business is functioning. If you had to change your delivery model, like many restaurants or many other service industries on Long Island had to do, make sure that information is prominently displayed on your website. If you had to change your menu and you're a restaurant, make sure that information is easily accessible so that people know what they can get for you. And also think about, how your website shows up for desktop versus mobile functionality. So many of us are tied to our phones these days as we're sort of toggling between work and childcare and all of these other things. I'm willing to bet that probably we're looking at our phones now, more now than ever. So make sure that the information on your website is also accessible for mobile. For those of you who are interested in analytics, and I saw that some of these questions, cropped up, there are free training programs. Google Academy has training programs for Google Analytics. Google Academy and HubSpot are two entities that offer basic training in search engine optimization. So you can avail yourself of any of these free training programs and start to build up or flex that analytics muscle if that's something that interests you. I really feel like we could probably spend an entire hour talking about analytics. So if this is something that interests you, let me know and I can put together something around that for a later date. But these are some concrete actions that you can take right away. So now I just want to open it up, because this is the end of this first mini module, to thoughts from our panelists, and I'll also keep an eye on the chat window to see if any of you have questions before we move on to the next little bit of information. So Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about influencers.
I just want to bang through a few things that are overall considerations, and I want people to just kind of focus on that, not sort of all of the bullet pointed details, since this is available for you to look at later. But demystify who influencers are. I mean, people love using the word influencers, but I think it's really important to think about who they really are and they are just like you and me. They're people who have a focus and a passion. As Sal said, there's an authenticity to being successful in social media. And so great influencers are people really who are love talking about gardening. They love talking about cooking. They love talking about home renovation, you know, all of these different things. So think about that. And then for your business, think about in particular, what is it that you're focusing on? Who is your business community online? What are their topics of interest? What do you really care about? Find those people, right? So that's the demystification of this all. The advantages of working with an influencer is really gaining access to more and more communities of people who are passionate about the same things that you are. So that's a big takeaway whenever I talk to people about this stuff too. It's the passion, and the passion helps you build your business. You know, it's like old school street cred. It's like, you know, you go to the guy, you go to the gal who really understands how things work, right? And you want to get their endorsement for what you're doing, right? So we can move on from this, you know, slide, move to the next one. I can kind of touch on, you know, other key topics here. So perfect. So influencers, it is easy. Again, I want to demystify all this. Oh no, one slide back. Yeah, sorry, one slide back. Thank you. Just very easy. Where do you find them? You know, you don't have to. And I always make that joke about Ariana Grande, because I talk to clients of mine and they'll say, how do I work with the top influencers? How do I pay Kim Kardashian to do something? It's like, no, that's not what you do. You know, you have to find people in your own backyard, meaning people in your world, right? Whoever are in your world, and reach out. You know, when you're small and you haven't really done this before, you don't need those agencies necessarily yet. You really are reaching out directly and you say, we seem to have the same interests, and I want to talk and I want to work with you and I want to see what we can do. Here's what I sell. Here's what I do. And begin that process of getting into their community by being an active participant in the community. Start with a simple idea. Start with things that are wins for the consumer. You know, what is your customer really going to be happy about? You know, offering some sort of a free trial or some introduction to a brand new product or service to a particular influencer in a community. You know, it's really important. And as somebody's commenting right now, I just reading the live chat, you know, go local, you know, help out each other in, you know, your community on Long Island. There are lots of people here who really want to do the same things that you do and get up and running for the reopening in this phase. So, you know, it's phase 2 reopening today, right? So we want to all move forward together, find those people and work together. I want to promote Big Lou's onion sauce. You know, I'm really excited about that. So,
thanks, Tim.
Absolutely. I want to do it. I want to hold up a jar right now and spoon it out and show people how great it is. Right?
I got 1,000 jars sitting right next to me. So
exactly.
Close the sale, Sal.
And then the next slide, if we could move to that quickly, and then we can, you know, keep the pace going here. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I just want to touch on this very briefly. Again, no need to go through this and read through all of those words right now. But you have to think about, one slide back, how compensation works for influencers. The compensation really, it depends. I mean, the important thing is that you have to be upfront. You're nothing that's behind and secret and whatever. If somebody is endorsing a product, you know, on social media or endorsing a service or something, it should be clear what the arrangement is. It shouldn't be some big mystery. It's like, wow, you know, Sal gave me this to try out, and guess what? I actually like it. You know, it has to be something real. It shouldn't be like, wow, I found this and I have no idea. You know, if it's something real happened and it's exchanged, you just have to be open about it. As you get bigger and as you work with more people, there is a lot more sophistication, a lot more to consider. I know people who work with literally hundreds of influencers. That's not easy to manage with just personal relationships and, you know, texting back and forth. That's something you have to, you know, have a platform for, or maybe an agency to work with. But start somewhere, start local, work with people who are passionate about the same things, and it's a great way to go. So Stacey, that's kind of my piece here.
So one of the reasons why I thought this sort of mini introduction to working with influencers would be helpful really came out from the pandemic shift workshop that I had the pleasure of sitting in on. And a lot of the business owners there started sort of interacting with one another and forming partnerships and, really using that relationship that they built in, that 9-hour workshop series to, think about ways that they can help one another, build their efforts and, speak with other local business owners or even other, journalists or, journalists are influencers too, right? To get the word out. And so I just wanted to give this little primer as a way of saying, you don't have to start working with Ariana Grande, right? There are people on Long Island who share your views, who share your passions, and you can work together to achieve great things. So any thoughts from the panelists or questions from our audience before we open this up to the next topic?
I would just say, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead, Sree.
I would just say that if you are ever in a meeting where the name Ariana Grande comes up and you're a small business, you're in the wrong meeting. That is not the point. You want to find the influencers aren't the most famous people, they're the ones who have the passionate audience that they bring with them. You're trying to work off of their audience that's relevant to you. And that's what's important. And we've seen that bigger and bigger brands are understanding that. And one of my friends was a blogger he ran a blog called Engadget that no one had heard of at the time. But when Bill Gates launched the Xbox, he gave 3 sit-down interviews, one to the New York Times business section, one to the Wall Street Journal, and one to this guy, Peter Rojas, just him and Bill Gates. Why? In the entire world. Why did they do that? Because they knew that if you go in the New York Times, yes, you get 1 million readers, but maybe you sell 5,000 Xboxes. This guy only has 10,000 readers, but 10,000 Xboxes would be bought by them, right? Like what you want to do is find that passionate following that they have in niche and specific areas that are relevant to you, not trying to find as big a person and a famous person as possible.
I'll second that. That's exactly what I was going to say.
What they said.
Exactly.
All right. I didn't see any questions in the chat box, so maybe we can move on to the next slide, Kristen. And with that, I will let Sal take it away on content creation and production, which is something that I know a lot of our participants today were interested in. So Sal, it's all you.
Sure, thank you. We're talking about social media, we're talking about influencers. At the end of the day, it comes down to content, right? Somebody has to be creating the content, whether you create it, whether the influencers create it.
Folks, while he's doing that, just want to point out that Simon Sinek is one of these names. You'll see Seth Godin, Simon Sinek, so many names out there. You should start following them on social. You can't just jump onto social and expect to be successful if you're not listening on social. So folks like this, the speakers you're hearing now, please follow them. Please understand what they're doing. And these are people are giving out free advice every day on social. And
Absolutely.
if you listen to the right people, you can. I just mentioned in the chat room before it gets lost that I'm offering a free certification course in social media that starts next week. The link is right in your chat room. Everybody here and your friends, cousins, everyone is welcome. We're partnering with Mockrack. It's our effort to help build a baseline of knowledge in social, and it's free to everybody. You get a certificate at the end of it, launches next week. And we have 3,500 people already signed up. We'd love to have more, so please do sign up. Thanks.
Sure. So we were talking about content and creating content, and on social media, whether you're creating blog posts, whether you're creating videos, whether you're taking photos, product photos, all these things, we're all content creators now. And, at the end of the day, I mentioned this the author Simon Sinek and speaker Simon Sinek. The link here is to his TED Talk. It's a simple concept. People don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. And a lot of businesses, most businesses, they're very good. They can tell you what they do. Some can even tell you how they do it. Most businesses have a real tough time telling you why they do what they do. And that's, for me as a business owner, I had to really reflect inside and think about, why did I start Big Lou's Onion Sauce? Why do I run a marketing consultancy? As an example, Big Lou's Onion Sauce, it was started as an homage to my grandfather. It was important for me to continue that legacy. So all those things, their why, and I put that why out into the world. So when I'm communicating via social media, people that follow my company, they understand that we're a small family run business. They understand that Big Lou was my grandfather, and they're more inclined to buy from me because they want to support a small family run business that's trying to make it. Right. So that's really the idea behind this. So when you're thinking about your content creation, instead of sell, you have to think about the story. You have to think about the why in terms of your strategy. Yep. So, I already talked about this concept about how we're all creating content, but does it provide value? And that's really what it comes down to is value. And the word value means a lot of different things to different people. Tim's examples were great around providing value in terms of the hair salon that's teaching you how to cut your hair at home until they can reopen. People that saw that or were customers, they're going to be customers for life. The restaurants that offered pizza making kits to offer virtual cooking classes, these things become value to people in a time where, people are stuck at home. They're, if you're on TikTok, bored in the house, I'm in the house and I'm in the house bored, right? So we all know that the people out there, the creative folks that have made programs for people to be entertained, to be educated, to be, engaged with during this time are really winning right now on social media. It's unfortunate. There are businesses that are going out, many of them of which were older businesses that didn't understand how to pivot or change. And so the hard part is, for people to understand what social media is. We talked about this awareness building channel, right? But there is a customer journey that happens for everybody. There are multiple touch points now, right? Because media is so fragmented. We have so many options when it comes to where we consume content, from OTT platforms like Netflix, or whether it's through YouTube or through your cable provider, right? So the age demographics determine a lot of this, right? My parents, they watch Netflix, but they still watch the news on cable many hours a day. So, but myself, I can't wait to get rid of cable, right? And my 10-year-old stepson, he only watches YouTube, right? So the audiences have been split. The attention has been split. And if you listen to, I'll throw out another name, Gary Vee, if you follow Gary Vee and the type of content he puts out, we know that unless you have the attention of folks in this device, you are not going to win. And so it all starts at that top level, awareness. If people are not aware of who you are, you cannot be part of the consideration set. So consideration means, well, now I have options. I heard about this brand or product or service, but how should I consider them? So am I going to read reviews about them? Am I going to see an influencer post about them? And it also takes time. People have to see multiple marketing messages before they're going to trust and buy from your brand. It's the same as the Mad Men old ad days on Madison Avenue, where people knew they had to be in a touch. You had to touch a person multiple times. What is it? 3, 5? Tim, maybe you could help me with that number, but it's like 3 to 10 times. I don't know what the number is.
It was like 5 to 7. That was the number I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So people you have to touch them with your brand multiple times before you build that trust and gain experience. So, as we go down the path, right? So then you acquire them as a customer, you provide the service, and then, there's this loyalty component as well. So you, as a business owner, you have to be able to market in multiple ways and creating content at every part of that journey. So my recipes may be very valuable in providing leads, and also to my existing customers for loyalty, because they want to see new things, new ways to use my product, because they may have bought it 6 months ago, but oh wait, wow, I didn't know I could use it for meatballs too. So let me rebuy again. So creating different programs for acquisition and awareness versus loyalty is very important for any business. And that's the thing. Many people are using these awareness building channels as a sales tool. So if you're constantly putting out like, well, I offered everybody 50% off on Instagram yesterday, how come nobody bought? Well, have you done a good job at engaging that audience? Do they even know who you are? Have you talked to anybody that's followed you? Have you engaged with them? Have you shared one of their posts? Have you commented on something they did? Are they actually part of your audience? Are they a food lover? And I'll use food a lot because that's just who I am. But so that's really what you need to think about when you think about performance and looking at other metrics in terms of, did you gain more followers? Can I remarket to them? Facebook is a pay for play channel. It is not an organic channel anymore. So you have to really realize that as you build your audience and the things that you can do to do that.
Now, one question before we go on, just because
Yeah.
I think you really just hit the nail on the head of what this person was asking. But Ned Steele asked in the chat box a little bit ago, which platforms are useful for building awareness versus sales? And I think you just answered his question,
Mm-hmm.
Regarding, it depends and all of, things that you talked about, are they in your audience? Are you organically or authentically interacting with them? I don't know if you have any further thoughts on that before you move on.
Yeah, I think the next slide actually will help answer some of
Okay.
that as well, right? So when we talk about your social strategy, you have a website or a core part of your business where you want to send your customers, which should be your website. Sometimes it's a mobile app, sometimes it could be other things, but your website is your hub. And then you have all these spokes, and Instagram is a spoke, Facebook is a spoke, YouTube is a spoke, and your blog is a spoke. So a podcast may be another spoke. Public relations, events, all these things are different places. They all need to point back to your hub, right? So you need to make sure you have a cohesive channel, and that's where using different things and different strategies on each of those channels makes sense in terms of pointing back to you. I mean, everybody wants the coveted organic SEO from Google. There's a number of strategies you can do to use that as well. Social indicators is something that Google does look at as an SEO qualifier. So having a strong social presence can also help your SEO traffic. This isn't going to turn into an SEO lesson at all, but again, free traffic is the best traffic. But when you're a new company and you're building, you have to decide, are you willing to operate at a break even? Are you willing to invest dollars in money? Do you have enough capital to reach the number of people that you need to? I can give you for instance, with my company, because we just ran some Facebook ads as a test, because this is our first summer out with grilling season. And, we spent $500 in ads and we drove over $2,000 in revenue. We got a 3.5 turn return on investment on our ad spend, and it was great, but we basically operated at a break even. We did not make a profit on that. So the question is, are those customers worthy enough? Will they buy from me a second time? Because if they purchase from me only once, they are not a customer. If they purchase from me 2 times, they are now a customer. I am a repeat purchase type of product. If I don't sell more than 1 jar of onion sauce, I'm dead in the water, right? So again, understanding where your different spokes are and how they interact is key. And then understanding the role and, having a lead funnel. It was mentioned in another slide before, where, in terms of, do you have a strategy that if you drive traffic to your website, are you collecting email addresses? Have you started a mobile text list? I mean, especially for local businesses now, mobile text messaging, if you're a restaurant, if you're a hair salon, those types of things, you want to be in the mobile device. Email is still key. Thank you, Tim, for the thumbs up. So yeah, your lead funnel is going to be vastly important, and there's so many things that can be part of that lead funnel. And you getting press and PR and all those things as well. You need somebody to advocate on your behalf for those things as well, because if I talk about my company, that's one thing, but when somebody else talks about my company, they're going to influence that purchase much better than I can. So that's really, to reiterate what Tim's conversation on influencers, that's really the bread and butter of influencers, is getting somebody else to validate your product or service. So creating media and content. There's different types of media we talked about, from video to photography to podcast, blog post. Technology clearly has leveled the playing field, right? We could all create content with our smartphones now. So, and it's high quality content. The gear, in the film world, we call it gear, but the gear doesn't matter as much as what the story is going to be. And again, that goes back to your why. We can all edit things for free. You can use Canva to create stunning social media images at 0 cost. I license the pro version because it gives me access to more stock photography for my clients. DaVinci Resolve is a free video editor that you can use, professional grade, literally used by people in Hollywood. Again, you can upgrade to a pro version, but I am still literally on the free version of DaVinci Resolve after like 3 years. And then, if you've seen on social media, a lot of people create videos either for their Facebook ads or for their podcast or other things where they have a big, bold caption on the top, and then on the bottom, they're actually captioning. It looks like in real time. There's an app for this. It's called Headliner. You could use, it's free. You get 10 free videos a month to close caption your videos. And why is this important? It's important because most people scroll on Instagram with the sound off because they're, you know, sitting next to their spouse in bed, or they're on a call like this and they don't want other people to hear what they're doing, right? So we're all scrolling on Instagram with no sound. So if you're not captioning your videos, I can tell you the content is being lost more times than not. If it's captioned and you have a title and you have captioning, more engagement, it means more engagement and more views for you. And then distribution, there's so many free tools out there. Obviously the big one, the big kahuna is YouTube, right? We all can distribute video and create a video channel for free, become an influencer, or make your company influential that way by producing series-based content or putting out content on a regular basis. And the key there is a regular basis, and it takes time and patience to build these channels, unless you're going to buy your way in or you have access to, you know, influencers or relationships that you can leverage to build those channels faster, you know, using the growth hacking methods or things like that. You distribute all this content. Anchor FM, you know, if anybody's looking at podcasting, you can create podcasts literally for free using Anchor FM. It is a free platform. It's where I host the Big Food Talk. And what that means is I create once, I distribute my podcast on Anchor FM, and it automatically distributes to every other platform, including iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, on and on and on. So there are tons of resources out there. It comes down to a factor of time and expertise. Do you want to learn all of these channels? Do you want to learn all of these expertises? Or is your time better served serving your customers, you know, making your products, or doing the other day-to-day business operations that need to take place?
Sal, I think there's one thing that had come up in the registration information, and maybe this will prompt some comments in the chat box, related to just what is the optimum sort of frequency or pace of posting and creating content and distributing it. So I'm sure the answer is it depends.
That is the answer. That is the answer. It depends. It depends on the vertical you're in, right? It depends on how competitive that, like with food, you know, people just want to see food all the time. Now, if you're a B2B service, it's probably not necessarily important unless you're trying to become a thought leader or an influencer where you want to create content on a regular basis. Then you need to be posting, you know, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, things like this about different things. Now, the key to that is micro content, right? Create one piece of organic evergreen content, like a podcast episode or this presentation, right? If after this presentation is finished, there'll be an hour and a half, 90-minute piece of content. It could be cut up into each speaker. It could be cut up into each slide. It could be cut up multiple different ways. So you can create one piece of content that now becomes multiple, and you can use that as leverage to distribute more frequently. And if we go to the next slide, I don't remember, are we into automation yet? I forgot.
Yes, automation is next.
Cool. Yeah, so why automate, right? So scheduling your posts frees up your time for more engagement, because without the engagement piece, you can't, your posts are not going to have as much reach, right? And there's a number of tools that can help you do this. Buffer is one of my tried and true. It's low cost, has some limitations for some platforms in terms of the way it can share. To Instagram, you need a business profile page in order to use Buffer to share to Instagram and things like that. But it's a great option for scheduling your posts, and a low cost option. Facebook, native scheduling tool. It's free. There's a native scheduler in Facebook. If you did not know that, you can schedule your posts in advance. A lot of them, you know, you could sit down on a Sunday night and schedule your entire week's worth of posts. And that's really social media. You have to start thinking about that content planning, content strategy. And have the amount of content to be able to do that. You need to shoot photography in bulk. You need to shoot video in bulk. You know, the worst thing in the world, I used to say, was waking up in the morning and not knowing what to post on social media today, right? And so I saw somebody's comment that it needs to be more authentic. It absolutely needs to be more authentic, but it needs to be peppered in with other things that are planned as well, right? So doing double duty, like, so Instagram stories is a great place to be authentic, right? What's happening today? I'm about to get on this presentation. I'm about to go make a delivery. I'm, you know, thanking this person, or I'm out at this restaurant now. So yes, authentic content is definitely the way to go. And you want to point the camera at yourself as much as possible. Some people, unfortunately, are not very comfortable with that as well. They don't want the camera pointed at them. So what do you do in those instances? This is where influencers come in. I want to talk about some other tools as well, like Tailwind. Pinterest gets lumped in with social tools, but it is not. It is a visual search engine. It is great for Google and SEO and helps point back to your site as another hub. But, again, it's a lot of image based, and they also have video now as well. Tailwind is a great app for utilizing and leveraging Pinterest if you're looking to grow that channel. And then there's another company called Later. It's a robust tool, provides visual representation of your content for multiple platforms, right? Similar to Buffer, but Later is definitely more robust. And then, there's other tools like to manage your hashtags. How frustrated are you typing in hashtags every time you make a social post? You could use an app like My Hashtag, create basically like hashtag playlists, I'll call them, right? So I have one that's for like local towns. I have like every hashtag of every town on Long Island in one list. And then I have like influential, like foodie hashtags in another list. Then I have ones that are just local or reach out to organic and other types of lists. So you can separate these lists and just copy and paste them each time you do a post. And so when you create that post, think about which audience you're really promoting it to. Is it meant for local? Is it meant for foodies? Is it meant for national? Geographically or keyword related. And so all hashtags can help you find the hashtags that you want to promote. The link is here. It can give you insight into the most popular and related hashtags by keyword. So really useful stuff that you can use to start thinking and planning your strategy around your social presence. I mean, you can use up to 30 hashtags per Instagram post. So there's a lot of ways in order to really increase your reach.
You touched on it a little bit.
Yep, time and expertise, right? So this is your time best spent creating all this content, editing assets on your own? It takes a lot of time to create videos at scale and to do all this. It may be a better strategy for some people, especially in the B2B sector or other sectors. Find podcasters, find influencers, find people that already have an engaged audience, become a guest on their show. Try to make a relationship with them through Instagram. I can tell you for me, like the Big Food Talk, where I have my food podcast where I'm interviewing restaurants, Instagram, great for building relationships. I got like 90% of my guests through Instagram. Where does all my traffic come from? Facebook. So there's reasons to use both channels, and how you use them is very important. So, just using influencers alone to take photos, what you would have to pay for professional photography can be very expensive, but you could get influencers who, through product exchange or other things, can take photos at a high grade for you. If you have a contract that says you're allowed to use their photos or that you own the photos they create, these are great relationships that you can have. And, like I said before, commercials are dead. People want to see your story. They want authentic content, as somebody else pointed out. They want to know you, the owner. They want to know your employees. They want to understand, and especially now, with restaurants, hair salons, other local businesses, how you're practicing social distancing, how you're keeping your place sanitized, and all those things. And they want to know your why. They want to know why you're so passionate about a business. Why did you start your business? And that's a key thing to continue through the thread of your social media stories as time goes on.
Thanks, Al. That was really wonderful. A few questions. Yes, we'll do a round of applause. A few questions have come in from the chat box, and I think they're really related to the current, socio-political climate that we're in right now. So Nancy had asked that many on Facebook are concerned about fake news and false information. What do the panelists think about using Facebook to promote your business? And I guess, sort of a secondary question relates to when or if should businesses take a political stance, which is a complicated question.
Very complicated. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to make a decision as a business owner. Do you want to support something? Do you want to remain silent? How you want to, and I don't think there's any right or wrong answers for people. Some people are nervous to say things because they're afraid to, so you have to realize on Facebook, there's a lot of audience. You have to deal with negativity and positivity. You have to be able to manage comments and how you're going to manage your reviews. It's the same, when Yelp was out there for a number of years, right? You have to be able to deal with negative reviews on Facebook. You have to be able to deal with comments and different opinions of all types. So you have to be able to navigate the system and understand how to be empathetic, how to be kind, how to, keep your ear open. I mean, I find there's more interesting information in the comments of posts than there is in the actual post many times, because the comments are where the people are actually talking. So you can get a very good gauge on your business or competitors' businesses, or, you know, what's happening in your community by reading comments a lot.
And I would just jump in for a second. I think, you know, we talked a lot about passion and authenticity. So if you are passionate about something, you know, and hiding that or keeping that out of your social media is not necessarily a good idea either, right? So there are always crazy things that are going on. There are always difficult things going on. There are challenging things going on. But, you know, if you're a passionate person and you're passionate about what you do in business and in life, there are ways to bring that into social media. And I think empathy, as Sal just said, is very important. You can come from a position of caring, of understanding, of wanting to learn. You know, there are a lot of things that you can do at any given moment. I always tell people that you should never stop. You know, I'm stopping for 3 months because I don't know what to say about Corona. Well, that's not the right answer, right?
Oh.
So I think that you've just got to come from a place that is real and that's filled with, you know, understanding, empathy, and willingness to learn. And then, you know, you're going to do fine, and you're going to have customers who are also going to be fine.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I don't think, you know, yes, people are concerned about false or, you know, information and fake news on Facebook, but I don't know necessarily how strong that link is related to, you know, advertised content or paid, you know, advertisements that people are placing on social media. So certainly if your target customer base is no longer on Facebook, you don't want to be throwing money at campaigns that are on there, because, you know, you're not using your spend in the most efficient way. But I don't think that would preclude you from publishing on Facebook if you know that your clients, you know, your potential customers are still on there. I haven't seen, Lana, I don't think I've seen any research on sort of this issue with Facebook advertisements and, you know, sort of trust translating over to businesses advertising on Facebook, right?
No, I haven't seen any research.
No. Sree, did you have any thoughts before we move on?
Sure. I just wanted to add that I thought Sal's slides were terrific and very helpful. One thing to keep in mind, Edelman has done some research around brands after the pandemic started, and the overwhelming research has shown that people want to hear from brands and are happy to hear from brands as long as they're offering solutions, not sales. Solutions, not sales. And that's some of the things that you already heard, the haircuts and the homemade pizza, stuff like that. So I think there's that idea, if you carry that through, even after the opening, even after the pandemic is died down somewhat, you want to focus on, are you helping people? Every one of your tweets is also an opportunity for people to unfollow you, because they're like, oh, I forgot I'm following this person, right? It's a chance for you to generate new business, but also for someone to unfollow you. So you have to craft every message you write. I spend 3 to 6 to 10 minutes on every post I write, because I know that what I post right now could get me fired today, could get me divorced today, could get me in trouble today. And if you write it with that attitude to say, am I adding value to my customers at this moment? If they happen to read this, will they be excited or will they be horrified? That's what you have to think about. And knowing that most people will miss what you do. That's one of the facts. And once you make a mistake, they will see it. But just think about what you're posting, how are you posting, when you're posting matters as much as what the platform is and everything else. So I think you've gotten lots of good guidance so far. And I'm sorry that I have to step away in about 10 minutes. But I would just say, once you get these slides, take them and say, okay, which of these things make sense for me? I can't do the 50 things these speakers have given us, but are there 3 things I can do? Are there 10 things I can do? 5 things? Find your comfort level and work on that. And that's the way I would try to do this.
Yeah, Sree, I think you really put this nicely, and you're right. You know, so we're hitting, you know, just about 10 minutes before 12:30. So we did have a little bit more content. Kristen, if we can just move to slide 23 in the deck. You know, I want to give the panelists a chance to, you know, talk a little bit, you know, more about sort of any issues that might be sort of top of mind for them, hearing what we've gone through, and then I really want to open this up to all of you who joined us today to see what specific questions that you might have for one or all of us. We're going to be getting in just a minute to our reach out slide. Kristen's just getting there for me. But please do feel free to reach out and connect with us. This slide contains contact information for some of us. Sree, if you maybe want to put your contact information in the Zoom chat window, if you feel comfortable with people linking up with you. But as part of the Suffolk Forward initiative, I have weekly office hours. And so if you have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email. I am happy and ready to chat with you. And all of our other panelists now have provided their information as well, ways that you can get in touch with them. So you can get in touch with Ilana and I using our Stony Brook emails. Sal's provided his email and LinkedIn as well as Tim. And Sree also in the chat box. So I'll incorporate, Sree, your contact information into here, so that way when the slides go out to everyone, they have it. But please do feel free to reach out. And so with that, I want to open it up to questions, comments, concerns. You can use the chat box. We will have the recording, that we can share once we edit it down a little bit. Make sure all of our tech difficulties have been minimized. But for our guests, feel free to put things in the chat box, or if you feel comfortable unmuting yourself, we can go that way as well. So we're here for you. We're here to answer your questions if we didn't already touch on them.
Cool. Well, Stacey, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. It was a great time.
Same here. Same here. I really enjoy these sessions. It's a really good back and forth. And what I would say to all of the viewers too, just from a way to sum up the things that I was saying, is you just gotta dive in and be yourself and be authentic and be true to what your business is about, and also have a little fun. I mean, those were some of the things that I wanted to bring up as well. I mean, even in a serious time, it doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of fun with your approaches or trying a new platform. I know a lot of people who've tried TikTok for the first time, in recent months, and it's great. Why not, right? There are a lot of different things that you can do. You should just continue to explore and learn from each other and help each other out.
I love that thought of having fun, because I think, as we all go through this situation and being physically distant from one another, it's easy to feel sad or lonely or to experience, mental health issues. And so to the extent that you can bring levity and joy to your interactions and your engagement, with your clients, I think it's a much appreciated sentiment at this time. So I feel like everyone's being shy.
Well, I was going to offer, so I'm going to add my Calendly link. And if anybody wants a free 30-minute consultation with me, they're more than welcome to book time with me on my calendar. So if anybody feels like, they want a more one-on-one or wants me to take a quick look at what they're doing on social or anything like that, I'm happy to offer up a free 30-minute consultation. Great.
That's a very generous offer. I hope everyone takes you up on it.
Well, if everybody takes advantage of it.
So Sean Deary, who is a former MBA student of ours, asked, mentions in the chat box that he shares content with other publications and social media pages, including the Advanced Energy Center, the Clean Energy Business Incubator Program, and the Real Estate Institute. He posts 3 times a day and tags companies and employees mentioned in the article. Without paid advertising, how can he expand engagement with this sort of transaction detail heavy content? Thoughts?
I think that this is a common issue for lots of people, that we're doing this work. We want to get more engagement. I would start by thinking about how many people who really care about that brand are on social. Are people active? Are they engaged? Are they involved? And getting them all to share as well. It's one thing for a company to share. It's another for individuals to share. People trust the word of mouth that comes from individuals more than they trust what's coming from organizations. And I see this in every company that I've worked with. We had this problem at Channel 2 here in New York, where everybody in the office was sharing articles all day, but very rarely from WCBS. They were sharing stuff from the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, even when WCBS had the same article, the same topic. So we made a system where we encouraged people and they participated. Same thing at the Met. Once we changed our social media policy and got everybody engaged, there was just so much more content going out there. And one of the best Instagrammers at the entire museum, out of 2,200 employees, was a 59-year-old security guard who had been at the Met for 30 years. She just turned out to have a really good eye. With some training, she was able to do amazing work. So think about, you're doing what you can as the brand, especially I know many of you are much smaller than the brands he's managing, but a university brand like that has so many people involved, researchers, scholars, students, they should all be thinking, how can they help get the word out? And that's what they can do.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think, it's important in any company. The individuals in the company are generally more influential on their own than the brand itself, especially for a startup or, local business. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is if you are a local business or you're in a particular niche, you may never achieve big numbers, right? And that shouldn't be the goal. So you shouldn't be looking to have 1 million followers if you're in a small local town doing a very niche product or service, because you really want a very small engaged audience. So if you have a loyal following of 500, 1,000 people, less than 5,000 people, and all of them are buying from you and interacting with you, engaging, it's way more valuable than the Ariana Grande scenario or having 1 million followers that don't actually care about you.
Any other questions? I just put a little comment in the chat box since we're talking about campaigns that, sort of leverage, Sree, you talked about this person working at the museum who happened to have a great eye. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, there's a small museum in Oklahoma called the Oklahoma Cowboy Museum, and their security guard took over social media when coronavirus hit and started the #TheCowboy campaign. And he did that because he knew nothing about hashtags. So he literally spelled out hashtag and his hashtag. And the museum followership, I think, truly accelerated. I think they have like 10 times the followers, a huge level of engagement now. Sree, maybe you know a little bit more about it, but this security guard was just having fun. And, in a way it was a blessing for this museum that they found someone who just had that voice that really exemplified the spirit of what the museum wanted to do when it interacted, with visitors. Kate asked, any thoughts on using Facebook or Instagram Live? I think we touched on this a little bit, Sal. I think you mentioned using Instagram Live as a way of, creating, popping out content.
Yeah, I think I actually touched on Instagram stories. We didn't really talk about Live, but yeah, Live is a wonderful tool. Facebook and Instagram Live, especially if you already curated audiences, right? Because the audience that you've curated, they're going to get an alert when you go live on any of these platforms. So it's a great way, other than, to reach your audience that you've already curated on Facebook organically. So Live is one of the last organic, ways to reach folks that way. And, one of the other things we didn't touch on was like Facebook groups, which are very, very impactful. I know 2 examples. For instance, my cousin started the Help Us New York State Unemployment Group on Facebook, which has reached over 100,000 members. In a time like this, creating a group that can provide value during this time, he's now pivoting that group for helping people get jobs. So for hiring or for people that are looking to hire, he's converted the group from the unemployment side, now that we're transitioning, and now to potentially an employment opportunity for people in the group. And then there's another one. I edited a podcast yesterday for a client who had Miss Megan's kindergarten class. If you have children, she started this Facebook group as well. She's a kindergarten teacher, and she started posting on Facebook daily and created a group, and she's achieved over 100,000 members in like a few short weeks. So Facebook groups and Facebook Live, they are very powerful tools, as well as Instagram Live. Absolutely.
Well, I just want to spend a moment thanking everyone. This was so wonderful. So I want to give a special thanks to all of our panelists, to Sree, to Ilana, to Sal, and to Tim. Thank you so much for the time and energy you invested in this and for being so generous with your time today. I want to thank the SBU Alumni Relations team, Kristen Brennan and Kristen Matthews, who are here with us today, and also Matt Colson. James Martello created one of our wonderful students in the American Marketing Association. I think James is here in the chat. He created the wonderful SBU graphics that you can see here of the people, you know, on the keyboard. So thank you so much to James for the promotional design and graphics. And I just also want to thank our Stony Brook University COVID for Business partners, including our faculty, Garrett Wolf, Lily Cushenberry, Donling Jiang, Richard Tan, Dave Colon, who's our interface with Suffolk County and the Suffolk County Forward Initiative. I really want to thank the Stony Brook Small Business Development Center for promoting this, and I know some people are here today because of their efforts as well. And so a huge thank you to all of you, and if I forgot anyone, I apologize. But I really hope that this was useful for you, and please do feel free to reach out to any of us. We're here to help. So thank you all for joining us today.